Hello, Renee Flamond here. You guys, this is meant to help people who are trying to talk to their narcissist and you're wondering what's going through their mind. They have a lot going on in their mind when they are trying to convince you, and none of it is for our benefit. I think the misconception many times, because it happened to me, it was, oh, he's going to sit down and talk to me. Oh, all right, he's trying to explain it to me. This is the story. He cares about my feelings. He's trying to make me feel better. He's trying to make me understand what happened. He's trying to help me see his side of it and why he faltered in that way. All of that is because I was hanging on to hope that there was something revealing about what he was saying to try to convince me that I could hang on to and make it work. Something that he could say would make me stay in there and work it out. I wanted to be hearing things. What they're thinking is isn't the same place that we are. We're sitting there eating it up, hoping and praying that they come out with some magic sentence, magic explanation that makes you understand why they did what they did. That makes you be able to live with it, right? Because that's the thing. Some of the things they do, and I've heard a lot of your stories, you can't possibly fathom even wanting to be in their company again, but it happens because they're a narcissist and there's cognitive dissonance and trauma bonding, and they love bombed you so you can't break away. It's the nature of the beast. So when they're trying to convince you of something, they're not thinking all of the healthy, hopeful, well, I don't know if it's healthy, all of the hopeful things that you're thinking. Oh, I hope this works. I hope this works. I hope this brings it. They actually think they're making you believe them. And our behavior lends itself to making them think they're being successful at persuading us. How many times have you decided, because I did, this happened many times, to just stop talking about an issue because you're just tired, spent, wiped out, defeated. So you let it rest. Even if it comes up later, but for what, you just let it rest. I swear that is their goal. That is their goal. And they don't really care the reason you finally shut up. They're just glad that we did finally shut up. And they're going to take that, you stopping talking about it, the way that they want. Probably something like, whew, she bought it. Or, oh, she's done. Oh, thank God I escaped that. And then you might say to yourself, because this is the question I had for a long time, and I arrived at my own answer with a lot of research and delving into what happened to me. But you say to yourself, if they feel so strongly about, I escaped that, then why'd they do it in the first place? And why do they care if they escaped it if they don't really care deep down inside anyway? It took me a while to realize that the answer to that is they may not be ready with something else lined up yet. So if you've caught them doing something and they're not prepared, they don't have a place to go live, the new supply that they're courting is still married to somebody else and they don't have a place for them to crash at, and whatever the case is, they have their reasons that they might not be ready to move on yet. You're their current supply. Maybe they don't have any new supply. They went and had maybe a one-night stand thing. But it's not someone that they don't have anywhere to go or a company to keep. I don't know. There's lots of reasons. They're all selfish. But if your narcissist is just not ready to be bounced out on his bottom, they're going to come up with anything and everything that they can say to make you believe what they are saying to you. And they will say anything. And they will swear on anything. And they will come up with the most cockamamie stories that you ever think in your life. And they expect you to believe them. Their goal is not to help you. Let's talk about that for a second. They don't have in their minds... Yeah, I'm hearing a lawyer right now go, well, how do you know what's in their minds? This is my opinion. With all the research I did and added things together, this is what I think. They don't have in their minds, let me aid you in gaining an understanding and some sense of order and peace. How hard and how many times can I blink? Seriously, that's not what's going on in their minds. You're sitting there hopeful, right? The end all of any narcissistic victim is when we hold on to that hope that they're going to come through, change, say something, and you're sitting there during the entire convincing process waiting for something. It's not coming, it's not coming, it's not coming, it's not coming, because we already know clarity doesn't come, right? We already talked about that. You're going to have no comprehension. You're going to get nothing. You're going to get nothing. So in all the convincing, they're going to try to have you that they're going to give you no real information. It's going to be circumvented language, going around the point, double talk, word salad. It's never going to be a straight, okay, here's what happened. I just thought I'd let you know. Remember when you said you called me that night? Yeah, I was actually talking to her right at that moment when you rang. They're never going to say that. They're going to give a clouded version of events that they want you to keep and accept as truth. Do I have to say that again? I'm sure you can just go, do that right now and I'll wait a second. Because that's the important thing here. That's what's going on in their minds. What can I tell her to convince her to believe me? What words can I say? What will sell it? Oh, what's that phrase I used last month? She bought that. Yeah. I'll tell her she belongs on a pedestal. And I'm going to take care of her. And I can't be without her. And I'm so sorry. I'll tell her that. She loves that. She loves that sorry word. Ooh, and you know what? I'm going to throw in a little bit. I think we should get married right away. That's always good for a little bit. It's manipulative. And when they're trying to finally have a conversation with you to convince you to believe them about something, these are the things I swear that are going through their minds. It's not the same place that you're in, of wanting it to work out, thinking you're in love. They're not who you thought. We talked about that with the Johnny Depp video. They're not who you thought. They weren't really in love. You thought, with someone that doesn't exist, so that means you weren't either. But you're not coming from the same place. You never were coming from the same place. So what you seek in having them sit down and finally talk to you to convince you of something, to make you believe them, stay with them, try again, convince you to see it in a different way, understand their perspective. They have an excuse. They've always been this way. They're trying to change for you. I'm in love for the first time in my life. Whatever they say, they're trying to say things to convince you, whereas your perspective is, I'm in love with this person and I'm really waiting for them to say something that will help me breathe again. They're not feeling that strongly. It stinks. It rots. I think back to all the long conversations I sat with this cat and had. He could have cared less. Couldn't have cared less, I suppose is more proper. And he just found me entertaining. 3-4 hour conversations. I swear he was entertained by his own voice, by how twisted up he had me. He liked being the center of attention for a 3 or 4 hour conversation. The topic was all on him. Talking about him the whole time. Never getting anywhere. Never hearing any truths. Never being convinced of a thing. never getting 1 ounce of clarity, only to have it end abruptly and happen again the next night, the next week, another infraction, another conversation that never quite happens, after having that conversation that never quite happened. So I didn't have any clarity or closure on that issue. That's still open-ended. And now we have a new one. Now he's trying to convince me of the truth of this one. More lies piled on top of that one. It's maddening. It's maddening. But I want you to understand, when they're sitting there trying to talk to you and they'll say anything, they'll swear on anything, that's a lie too. Please don't fall for that. I've mentioned that in other videos too, for people that are new to this channel. They'll swear on anything to convince you. Anything. Mine used to swear on the death of his mother, the illness of his kids. Oh yeah, bad stuff. Bad stuff. I don't mess with that. I said, you're going to swear on that? I know you're lying. How can you swear on that? No, some people, it doesn't really have any power. This is a guy who had a shrine with the cross and the dead relatives and the rosary beads and the holy water every morning. And you're going to swear on your mother's life and on your kids' to get illness. To prove to me, to convince me you're not lying, or to convince me of a certain point, you're going to go that far. He was lying. They'll say anything. And they'll cry, and they'll say they're sorry, those words. They'll say anything. They'll promise anything. They'll bargain with you. I'll never do it again. You can have my phone, mine told me. I won't even ever have a phone. Oh, in life, you're going to go through life with no phone? I will never talk to anybody again. I'll sit in this house for 6 months. I'll show you. Oh, you got the bargaining to convince you. They'll do that. I mean, when they're trying to convince you, what they're thinking is, what do I have to throw out to get her to budge? And oftentimes you can tell, because I started to catch on, and we'd be in a 2, 3, 4 hour interlude of a fight/cry fest discovery session, PI investigation, whatever heck 4 hour thing it was. But we'd be 2 hours in and he'd come out with something new that was supposed to appease me, make me feel better. And I would be like, well, why didn't you say that 2 hours ago? Falsely being lied to, but it made me feel better. I go, why did you know why? Because he just came up with it. Or they dole out little bits of truth, just enough to taste your palate, but not enough detail to make you go overboard and be that upset. It wasn't that big of a deal. I just kissed her. Whatever the heck. So they'll give you little details enough that maybe you can accept that. And blah, 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 blah. It's always more. It's always more. And when they're doing that, and you're trying to decide if you can swallow these nuggets, they're thinking, I'll just keep throwing things out. Okay, I'm getting her. So did they save that? Did he save that for 2 hours in and pull out another little nugget? Well, I just kissed her might be what I'm talking about in an example, but he didn't. That's not my example, but I'm saying that might be one. They finally relent and say, okay, you're right, but I just kissed her, is what I'm talking about, that kind of thing. It might take somebody 2 hours to get to that point. And then you might say, well, that makes me feel better. Why didn't you say that 2 hours ago? You know why? Because they will give as little information as they have to. So they're going to hold on to every nugget, whether it's a lie or whether it's the truth or whether it's a combination of both. They're going to give as little as they have to because they can keep all of that ammunition for another time. And why would they give you more information than they need to? If I bit on anything he tried to feed me the first hour, then maybe I wouldn't have found out what I found out in hour 2, 3, and 4. But I didn't let things go. I tortured him. And like I said, I think he sat there because I think he liked it. Talking about himself, eventually revealing truths that crushed me. That's that's part of devalue. They love that. They love devalue. That's why his behavior is that way, right? So, and we're talking about him, and oh yeah. When they try to convince you, you really got to watch what you're willing to accept as truth. And they dole it out because they'll give as little as possible. So maybe in minute 59, your guy didn't say, well, I just kissed her. Because up to then, he's saying, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. Minute 59, nothing happened. Minute 60, if you pushed one more minute, maybe he would have said, well, I just kissed her. But he's not going to give that up if he doesn't have to. He's going to try to deny that anything happened. You know what I'm saying? And that's only, like I said, if they're not ready. Now, if they have a place to go and they've lined up supply and they still go, they might just leave. But they still go through this game because their ego is such that they want everybody they leave to still be pining for them. So, like, my narcissist ended up getting the message and he stayed gone and he got this girlfriend that he was cultivating over here, but he kept coming back here every month trying to tell me he wants to be with me again, which I never said yes to, but he did that for a year having that girlfriend because his ego couldn't take the fact that I rejected him, and he left rejected. He was never accepted back. And he finally got the hint or found new supply behind this girlfriend's back, or found a new girlfriend and she's the old supply. Whatever he's doing now, I don't know. But I couldn't be convinced finally. And I knew that it was in my best interest to have him be gone. That's a very personal choice. But I did want you to understand that when they are trying to convince you, they're going to give up as little as they can, and they want to sell it as fast as they can. So they don't have to have any more uncomfortable conversations about you needing your clarity. And they can get back to what they were doing. It's a really vicious part of the cycle, and I'm sorry if you're going through it. Let us know in the comments. Reach out. You know how cooperative this audience is, and people will have something to help you, because especially new people, this can be a very confusing time because you're dying to have the talk. They finally are going to have the talk. He's coming over to talk. We get all excited. No, he's coming over to try to convince you. And he's going to be doing his best to do so. He might walk in with flowers. He's going to look nice. He's going to compliment you. Maybe. Maybe you're in a fight and none of that's happening. But I'm saying, when they're at the point that they're going to want to try to convince you, they're going to give it their best shot. Beware of it. Don't fall for it. And make sure you keep your guard up. Okay? Please go ahead and hit sub, like, and share. And I will see you next time. Look at Minnie. She fell asleep. Min! Look at your people. That's it? Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.